While everybody is watching this ETH pump, I want to actually talk to you about a narrative that, if you're looking at the bubbles, really only a very, very, very trained eye can catch this narrative. But the thing about this narrative is that I've been here in crypto full time since, let's say, 2016, and never since I've been here, this is by far the most exciting and most real narrative that I've ever seen in crypto. And not only is it exciting and real, but I actually think it's really early and there's a lot of money that can actually be made. So today I want to talk to you about this new narrative, and I want to talk to you about why this narrative is actually much better for Solana while everybody's actually watching ETH. So listen, if that sounds good to you, today's going to be an amazing show. Subscribe to the channel, join the 1 point, it's going up so quickly, I can't even keep up. 1.162442 subscribers. Obliterate the like button. We've got a very alpha-packed show for you guys today. Let's get going, guys. I must say, after all the sideways markets and everything moving sideways and news not moving markets, we're now back in a market where there's new narratives, there's news moving markets, there's a lot of positive news happening all the time, and it's just amazing to be back in these kind of markets, and amazing to have everybody here again. I see a lot of people are coming back because they went on a bit of a vacation when the markets were in this lull, and now they're all back here. Today we've got an amazing show for you, slightly different show. We're not going to be covering too much about the macro and stuff like that. I think we've done a lot of that in the last couple of days. I think I want to get straight into this amazing narrative that I think really only broke yesterday, or really only started breaking yesterday. And the reason why I think we should talk about it is because I think it's one of the more real narratives in crypto. And specifically when I look at the markets now, and I know that everybody's watching the ETH pump, and to be brutally honest, yesterday I posted in the in front runners that I actually took an ETH trade. And not only did I take an ETH trade, but you guys will be super proud of me. I actually, for the first time, I want to say ever, but I'm not sure that it's ever. For the first time in a long time, I actually used a stop loss. And I think that ETH trade is actually playing out. But the thing about the ETH trade is that it's not really about the ETH trade. The ETH trade symbolizes that there's a risk-on movement in the market. And when there's a risk-on movement in the market, typically we see a whole lot of new narratives actually playing out. So whether you love ETH or hate ETH, doesn't matter. This ETH pump is very good for all risk assets in crypto. But the one thing I think that people are overlooking, because the focus is so much on ETH, is I think that people have forgotten about Solana and the Solana ecosystem. And in particular, because this new narrative that we're going to talk about today is actually currently being dominated by Solana for very many reasons. And we'll talk about the reasons why this narrative is being dominated by Solana. So listen, if that sounds good to you, I need you to do me one favor. Only one favor. All you need to do is smash the like button. That's all I'm asking. I'm going to give you guys a whole lot of alpha. We're going to dig deep into this narrative. All I ask from you is that you get the 207 likes that we've got currently to 1,207. So let's get going. So what is this new narrative, and why am I so excited about this new narrative? I think when you think about why I'm so excited about this new narrative is because really I've been in blockchain since, I think full time, you could say, since 2015 or 2016. And when I got into blockchain, the reason why I got into blockchain was because of all these buzzwords over here. The words like financial inclusion, accessibility, frictionless finance, global frictionless finance across borders, trustless finance across borders, real decentralized finance and disintermediation of middlemen across borders. I got into blockchain because of things like social finance or borderless finance. Those are the reasons that I got into blockchain. And, for the most part, other than Bitcoin, stable coins, maybe ICOs, blockchain really hasn't delivered on the promise of all of these buzzwords that it purported to be. But now there's a new narrative that has actually surfaced, and it's actually surfaced very quickly. And the narrative is called internet capital markets. And really, if you think about it, yesterday was the first day. You can kind of see it started to go up in the social metrics a couple of days ago, but really only yesterday did this whole internet capital markets thing actually break. And it actually broke, funny enough, a little bit before we were live on the show yesterday, and that's when it really came onto our radar. So if you think about what internet capital markets are, pretty simply put, internet capital markets are creating capital markets out of anything and anyone on the internet. So basically, anyone who has internet access can be part of capital markets. Now, I mean, I know that sounds like a very, very, very big term, but we're actually going to bring it back to something that's happening right now. So again, the concept behind what a market is, or specifically capital markets, it's a place where people that have capital can invest that capital in people that have ideas, right? So if I've got an idea and you've got capital and you want to invest in ideas, then we can meet in what capital markets are. But if you think about traditional capital markets, like all traditional financial markets, are pretty flawed. And the reason why they're pretty flawed is for the normal reasons. One, they're only open to certain people. You have to be an accredited investor if you want to invest in capital markets. Specifically, if you want to get into early stage capital markets, you can only invest at certain stages in a company's life. So there's a primary market and a secondary market. The primary market is where things are sold for the first time, and the secondary market is where people actually land up trading. And effectively, markets are usually only open to certain participants, and there's very few. In fact, I don't know of any global capital markets, right? And specifically, what I don't know about is that of any markets that are so inclusive that they can actually allow anybody with an internet connection anywhere in the world to participate in capital raising, whether you're on the one side of capital raising where you want to provide the capital, or whether you're on the other side of the capital raising where you have an idea and you need capital. The internet capital market is really the only markets that can actually do this. So the key differences between capital markets, traditional capital markets, and internet capital markets. First of all, access. Capital markets are mostly limited to big institutions and wealthy investors. They usually have intermediaries. And if you've ever dealt in capital market and you've dealt with the intermediaries, usually they are capital raisers, VC, commercial banks, and stuff like that. You'll realize that there's a lot of friction. There's a lot of paperwork. There's everything else. Availability. Capital markets are only available in your time jurisdiction. Speed and cost. I mean, if you've ever tried to raise capital in capital markets, you'll understand the speed and cost of capital markets is very rough. Transparency within capital markets is limited information available. Often the information is private and controlled by big companies. So generally, when people are raising capital, the capital raises are pretty private. So that is what traditional capital markets are, and that's how they compare to internet capital markets, because internet capital markets are literally where anyone in the world can appeal to anyone on the internet with any idea on the internet to be able to raise capital. And that's really democratizing the whole of finance. So whereas some people have pitched this as internet capital markets equals tokenizing startup ideas before they're built, I think that's a little bit limited. So he says devs pitch ideas, launch a token tied to that idea, and traders bet on the idea before the idea goes into production by buying and selling the token. So if you wanted to launch something and you wanted to understand whether or not there was a product market fit, you could say, hey, I want to launch little silver magnetic balls that people can fidget with while they are broadcasting on the internet. If there is a market for it, people will land up actually buying the token. And if people actually land up buying the token, that means you know that there's a product market fit. And then you can take the money that you've raised through this token sale to actually go and develop the little magnetic silver balls that people can fidget with while they're actually playing on the internet. So as this thing says, it says no product, no MVP, just vibes and speculation, and it's happening very, very, very much on Solana. So here's a nice breakdown. Here's a nice breakdown which I got from the internet. It says internet capital markets, the meta you can't miss. Here's how to make some serious gains. Internet capital markets. What? Making your next viral app idea tradable from day one. Imagine launching your app instantly and making it a tradable asset where anyone on the internet can back your idea, not just with likes or downloads, but with becoming a real stakeholder. So it's almost like, you can almost think about it like a Kickstarter. You know that site Kickstarter, where people have these wacky ideas and they want to develop the wacky ideas? Well, it's almost like bringing it's one level above Kickstarter. It's the creation of a new market where you can trade ideas behind apps, not only apps, generate volume, the kind of volume that helps build users and earn share of fees, which enables them to turn the idea into an actual app. Internet capital markets allows everyone to inject capital into apps and websites from day one, directly from people who will eventually become your users and your investors. It's like a creation of a launch pad for internet apps. And I'm going to say it's not only internet apps, it's internet ideas, where builders can launch ideas and you can speculate on ideas by buying a token. The more demand for the token would eventually help the builder develop the app faster and build a successful business around it. So that is effectively what internet capital markets are. Someone says, internet capital markets literally outperforming 90% of all random businesses we've never heard of until today. Study execution risk, study the 𝗏 parallel. So this is literally the 𝗏 parallel. The 𝗏 was the AI, the first iteration of the AI agent parallel. This is, in my opinion, much, much, much bigger. And the reason why I think that this is much, much, much bigger is because I think the best ideas are actually going to come from AI. I don't know how many times you've actually heard of people who go to AI. I don't know if or you've maybe even gone to AI agents and you said, give me 5 business ideas or 5 ideas for apps that I can launch on the internet. Now you're in a world where the AI agent can actually come up with those 5 ideas, post it onto the market, and people can actually crowdfund this idea. And if the idea gets a certain amount of funding, then the idea can basically get into real life or come into fruition. Very, very, very similar to a Kickstarter. For those of you who don't know what Kickstarter is, let me see if I can quickly get onto a Kickstarter website. So Kickstarter is an idea where if you have an idea, you can basically pitch your idea to the world, and they will fund the idea. And if they do fund the idea, if they do like the idea, and you actually raise the money, and you can actually develop the idea. So that is what effectively internet capital markets are. Now, in this world of internet capital markets, I think we already have the killer app, which has already been launched. Now, the launch of the app was very recently. I can't tell you exactly which day it was launched. It is an app called the Believe app. So it's believe.app, and you can download it onto your iPhone. I'm sure you can download it onto your Android. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on my app, but effectively, because it's green and we're here in a green screen, but effectively that is you can't really see it there, but that is actually the app over there. So you can see the app over there. Let me show you this. Okay, so that's the app over there. And how the app basically works is it's really, really, really simple. What happens is if you see something, you tag @launch_a_coin plus the name, and you can turn it into a coin. So basically, you can go to Twitter, you can comment @launch_a_coin plus the name of the coin, and it will literally automatically turn it into a coin. It's Kickstarter, but for ideas and projects. Here's how it works. A founder or scout can tag an idea or post with launch a coin, which automatically creates a coin tied to the idea. The market then determines the coin's fair value based on the size and the importance of the problem being solved. For founders, it's a way to gauge real market demand for their idea. If enough fees are generated, the founder can claim the earnings and immediately start building. For scouts, the goal is to discover the best ideas and founders, and so they will be able to raise money. Now, on top of the app, which is a very, very, very cool app. I think the one thing that they've actually got right is they've actually got it onto the Apple Store. And not only have they got it onto the Apple Store, but effectively, you can actually pay using a debit card. You can use Apple Pay. You can use Coinbase Pay. You can do a manual transfer from or to a Solana wallet or from a Solana wallet. But effectively, that is how easy this whole thing is. So you can see one of our researchers actually tried it, and he made us this video. You can actually add in. He wants to add $100, hit debit card, and pretty much it adds money to these things. So it really, really, really is a new frontier. As I said before, you tweet Launchcoin plus the ticker name. A bonding curve initializes the token, limited supply. So it's almost like, think about it like a pump.fund, or think about it like a virtuals protocol where you can launch, instead of launching an AI agent, you're actually launching a business idea. If you can raise enough money for that business idea, the token goes out of the bonding curve. And then the best thing is that you as a founder get to claim 50% of all trading fees by linking your X account. So basically, unlike pump.fund, which actually only recently started sharing revenue with its creators, these guys are actually sharing revenue with the creators on the first day. And that revenue can actually be used to fund the ideas. The graduation trigger, you got to reach 100,000 market cap. Once you've reached 100,000 market cap, then you graduate to one of the actual dexes. The app has been able to get massive traction. You can see it's already, after such a short period of time, it's 147 in the finance apps, and they had extreme. I think this thing exploded much quicker than they actually imagined. Now, on top of the actual app, there is a coin. Now, the coin you've probably seen, and that's why I said to you, I think the trained eye can see it on Bubbles. It's got a $200 million market cap. It launched, I think the coin launched a while back, but I think it only started exploding pretty much yesterday. So you can see it pretty much exploded more or less when we went live on the show yesterday. That's more or less here is when this coin actually started to explode. Right now, the coin, which is called Launchcoin on Solana, is trading at a $200 million market cap. Now, if you were on Bubbles, you would have been able to pick up, not only would you have been able to pick up this coin. You can see that there's Launchcoin over there. This coin was up like 700% yesterday, and it's up 70,000% in 60 days, like Martin said. And we'll talk about whether you should buy this coin or not in a couple of seconds. But there is already a coin, and there is already a killer use case and a killer application, which is endorsed and maybe even funded by Solana and some of the biggest VCs behind Solana. When I saw this coin, I went to speak to some of the VCs. It seems that some of the big VCs are actually in this, but I don't think that they had very many rounds or anything like that, because we've never seen one of these rounds actually going on here. So the one thing about this is that there's going to be many launch pads that actually launch internet capital market ideas, or so-called blockchain Kickstarter ideas. There are going to be many apps that actually do this, right? Just like when we had the AI agents, we had a lot of apps that actually launched AI agents. We had Virtuals, which was predominantly on Base. We had equivalents on Sui. We had AI agents on Sui. We had AI agents on Solana. And effectively, right now, the first killer app that has happened on this is this Believe app. Now, what you'll remember is that in the last part of the bull market, when we started speaking about AI agents, the real winner when it came to AI agents was actually Virtuals, right? So Virtuals was the real winner when it came to AI agents. And what landed up happening is Virtuals not only was probably the best thing to happen to Base, and then by definition also the best thing to happen to Ethereum, but it also had a ricochet effect, which brought people onto the Base chain. People started to download Base wallets. People started to participate in Base DeFi. People started to use Aerodrome as the biggest Base DEX. And the reason why they did this is because they wanted to participate in the AI agents which were actually being launched. So this is going to be no difference. In this thing, it's exactly like the launch of Virtuals. You can kind of think about Believe and any other app that comes out like this, and there are a couple of copycat apps that have come out like this. You can kind of think of this exactly like Virtuals. In the Launchpad game, I think it was pretty clear that the biggest winner was actually Virtuals. And then the other thing that actually happened was you got a whole lot of different AI agents that were actually launched using the Virtuals software that also started to get value, right? And it's exactly the same here. The first thing is you've got the Launchpad, which is the Believe app, which is the Launchcoin token. But then on top of that, you've got a whole ecosystem of other tokens, which are the tokens of the projects that are actually being launched on the platform. Some of them are absolute garbage, but some of them are real businesses. And the truth is, I'm not really going to start commenting in this show, and we are going to do many other shows. In fact, in Frontrunners, we're actually going to have a dedicated channel to Believe app system tokens, or to internet capital market specific tokens. And that channel or those contributors have already started to make a whole lot of money on this narrative. So you can see that yesterday already people were posting watch lists in Frontrunners. Already overnight, the guys started to make 120 million apes 3x overnight. So these guys already started to make money in Frontrunners. I'm going to say this again, and I said this to you guys yesterday. there's probably never been a better time to get into front runners, because right now when the markets are exploding, there's tons of calls. But now we're also going all in and focusing on this new narrative. And so what I've done here is, as I said before, I've said to you guys, you can come in and you can check out the dedicated channels and you can check out the calls. If you're unhappy in a month, you can pretty much exit and you can send me a mail and you'll pretty much get your money back. There's really no better time to get into one of these groups. You're about to enter a bull market, and there are specific bull markets happening within specific sectors, which we are actually starting to cover. And you can see that in those sectors, a lot of coins are actually starting to launch. This is exactly a repeat of the playbook that happened on AI agents. You remember that the AI agents started to launch. Then CoinGecko launched a new category called, at that time it was the virtuals agents. Now they've got the Belief app ecosystem tokens. You can also go to the believescreener.com. And if you look at the believescreener.com, you can pretty much see all the different projects that are actually launched on Believe, and you can go into each one of the actual projects. Okay, I'm not going to go into Launchcoin because Launchcoin is the actual coin, but you can go onto Dupe, and I think it will load if the internet actually gives it to me or if their website actually works. But pretty much you can see everything that you need to see in the Believe screener about every single one of these things, and you can see the correct contract address, because remember, each one of these things has a contract address. Now, there's also a lot of spreadsheets that are going around. This is one that I picked up yesterday. I'll show you another one at the end from Pratik. And let's just follow him. But he actually has a Google spreadsheet of literally not all, but a lot of the different watch lists of things that he's actually using, which are these internet capital market projects, or projects from anyone on the internet trying to raise money. And I want to show you just one or two of these projects of like how cool some of these projects are. So this is a project called dupe.com. What dupe.com is there's a guy who felt that he was duped. He went and he bought something, and once he bought it on the internet, he felt like he was duped. And so he started this thing called dupe.com. Snap up all your dream furniture at the lowest price with this one life hack. Tell everyone. So let's just go to dupe.com so that you can actually see what the website is. Again, this is just an idea, and he says find similar products for less. And the way that he came up with this idea is, he bought something on the internet. He felt like he got duped. He didn't want people to get duped. And so he created a website where literally you paste an image and it tells you where you can get the same sofa or whatever it is for the same amount of money. And he needed money to do it. So what did he do? He went to the internet. He said, kickstart, do my idea, crowdfunded the idea on the Believe app. And now he has a token, but he actually also has an amazing business, which is being able to source furniture much cheaper than anybody else. Now, this could be the next Amazon. This could be the next billion-dollar idea. And this was started as an internet capital market project. And there are hundreds of these. So there's this one here. It's called Use Giggles. Use Giggles, if I remember correctly, is a post Giggles. So basically, I think you watch Giggles, and you get rewarded for actually watching these short videos, which they call Giggles, and you can see that over here. And there's tons and tons and tons of these. There's Buddy AI-powered content coach. There's Fitcoin AI virtual closet app that offers fashion, styling, resale, and crypto rewards. Let's maybe look at that one. I kind of like that one. So you can literally go through all of these different ideas, and you can even create your own ideas, and you can in an instant crowdfund the idea using these internet capital markets. So that is effectively the idea. As I said, it's not really about the actual so it's not actually about specifically the Believe app, even though I think the Believe app probably has the biggest chance of success with who backed it and with the fact that it launched so early and it got the biggest share of voice. It's about the fact that anyone anywhere in the world can raise money for a business idea. If I'm in South Africa and you're in Philippines and you've got a great idea, I can fund your business idea with no capital restrictions, with no cross-border restrictions, and basically we're making finance accessible and absolutely fair to everyone. Now, the question is whether or not you should buy this token, the Launchcoin token, and whether or not you should actually go and buy the individual tokens on the app. So let's start off with those, and then I want to talk about how this benefits the Solana ecosystem. Someone says, "Run, disclose your bags." in this idea first. My bags are, I have a position in Launchcoin. I bought the position yesterday. I have no positions in any of the other projects because, and I'll show you in a second why I have no positions in any of the other projects. But I'm going to have positions in the other projects. So the reason why I've taken a position in Launchcoin is because I think that this coin has the share of voice, and this could be the virtuals of this ecosystem. They've obviously done a great job. They've listed on the Apple Store. They've managed to get credit card payments, debit card payments, and stuff like that. So they've instantly made this, you can use Apple Pay. So they've instantly made this a global app. And I like this tweet which said, in the current environment, you can either chase derivatives of the original meta or be part of something net new. And this is something net new. And this is the app that it's not a derivative of the net new. It's the first net new app. So it's almost like investing in virtuals versus investing in any of the other AI agent launchpads, right? You can say that there were about 1,000 AI agent launchpads that launched after virtuals launched, but how many of them got anywhere near the traction that virtuals actually got? And that's why, to be honest, even though I don't usually invest in things at $100 million and $200 million market cap, here I actually did take a punt. And the reason is because this is one of those ideas that can easily go to $1 billion and maybe $2 billion market cap very quickly. If we look at virtuals, let's see if we can actually go to virtuals, and we go to where virtuals traded at the top. It's trading at a $2 billion valuation now. But if you go back to the top of the bull run, if I remember correctly, this thing went to something like $4 billion or $4.5 or $5 billion. And that was an AI agent launchpad, which effectively allowed you to use wrapped AI agents and to tokenize them. To me, internet capital markets is a much bigger narrative. It's a much more real narrative, and it's a narrative that AI agents are going to use to launch their business ideas. AI agents are going to come up with business ideas, and they're going to crowdfund to actually develop code or launch these business ideas. Okay, so that is the narrative. It's, as I said before, it's called internet capital markets, and what it's about turning any idea on the internet into a token and into a business by being able to raise money from anybody on the internet. Any idea or any person can create money, can raise money, and can launch a business across the internet. So that is the idea. And of course, there's a lot of advantages to the idea. And as I said to you, the reason why I like it is because it really does trade one of the, it does talk to the benefits of blockchain, etc., etc. There are, of course, a couple of risks. There's a lot of risks. The first risk is, and I think the most obvious risk is that the tokens won't actually have any value. Specifically, if you look at the terms and conditions, and I think they've done this to avoid SEC and securities laws. The tokens are not securities, they're not investment instruments, they're not equity. And so the question is, how will these tokens actually accrue value? The second issue is that these tokens, by nature, will mostly be securities. Because if you're participating, unlike Kickstarter, so Kickstarter does something very smart. It says, look, you invest in the Kickstarter, and let's say I'm developing a new water bottle. You invest in a new water bottle, and if you invest in a new water bottle, you're not actually investing in the company, you're actually pre-buying the water bottle, right? And that way, they've managed to get away from being a security. Here, the token, if the token represents any kind of value tied back to the business, then the token is going to be a security. And so one of two things will happen. Either these tokens will be securities and they will need to be regulated like securities in the different jurisdictions that we know what that brings, or the tokens won't have any value. Or the third thing that could happen is the tokens will actually be utility tokens, but I think we're probably a long way away from actually being utility tokens. So because I think that the tokens are a long way away from actually being utility tokens, and I think that the average person on the internet that launches a token has no idea about the difference between a token that is a security and a token that is a utility token, and how to structure a utility token to be a utility token versus a security token. I think that there's going to be a lot of gray areas here. Now, what are the risks around the gray areas? The first thing is that these tokens, these derivative tokens, won't actually land up having any utility, or that they will be regulated by the SEC and achieve a massive penalty and etc., or that the platform itself will start coming under fire from things like the SEC or SECs in different jurisdictions. So this is, for me, those are for me the risks. But remember, you cannot not invest or not start something because of the risks. What you do is you start and then you tackle the risks as the risks happen. So I think that they've probably got a plan B, and I think that they've got, I know for sure because I went through the terms and conditions that these tokens don't have any value, and they've got all the different terms and conditions already programmed into the app. But I am highlighting that there could be a hell of a lot of risks. Now let's talk about the massive opportunities. So, with these things, as I said to you, I'm not a big fan of the individual tokens, even though I do think that they're going to provide for an amazing hype casino. Just like memes provided a hype casino and just like AI agents provided a hype casino, our new hype casino is Kickstarter projects on the internet or on the blockchain, or what we call internet capital market projects on the blockchain, right? That is our new casino. And in order to capitalize on the new casino, you need to be early, you need to be first. And I think it's going to be a very similar structure to meme coins and a very similar structure to AI agents. The sooner you get the information, the sooner you get in, the sooner you're going to profit. And I think that partners of ours like Dexcelerate, which effectively, Dexcelerate is what it does is allows you to trade Telegram calls. Like by just following a Telegram call or just linking a Telegram group, you can follow and trade calls, and you can sort the Telegram groups by the win rate, the lose rate, the highest returns that they had, etc., etc. There's a link below if you want to try it. Use this link because there are a lot of malicious links, and I know people that have clicked on malicious Dexcelerate links and had their wallets drained. And here you are connecting your wallet, so please use the link below to actually connect to Dexcelerate. But here you can find some of the earliest calls, exactly like we found them for meme coins and exactly like we found them for AI agents. That is the thing. I think that now we are launching a new type of internet casino. The first type of internet casino was meme coins. The second type of internet casino was AI agents. And this is now the third internet casino. Just like with meme coins and just like with AI agents, I think 99% of the actual derivatives of the actual coins long-term are going to have no value. But there's going to be a lot of hype, and you're going to be able to make a lot of short-term gains on these things. And as you can see from the spreadsheet, like literally each one of these things has a token attached to it. Some of the tokens are actually going up to big market caps and big valuations. Some of them are going up and coming back down. Like this one's back down at 5.9 million. It was at $16 million earlier when I looked at it. So you can see that each one of these ideas is going to get funded. So to me, what I'm looking to buy into the actual protocols that are going to gain from this. So what are the protocols that are actually going to gain from this? By far, the biggest winner from all of this is going to be Solana. And I know everybody wrote off Solana and they said, because meme coins are starting to die, or because there was a bear market and the meme coins were starting to die, Solana has lost its shine, and that's why everyone was looking at the Sol ETH chart and basically saying, oh no, it's the end of Sol and it's the beginning of ETH. But as you can see, very close to the bottom of this trend line, or to this trend line over here, which Solana has been tracking since, I think, probably somewhere around here, since 2023, we're now getting a bounce. And I think that the reason why we're getting a bounce is because of this narrative called internet capital markets, right? Now, the reason why I think Solana is this is the best thing that ever could have happened to Solana is if you understand what Solana set out to become at the beginning, is Solana was the path to a decentralized NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is today the capital markets of the traditional finance system. And they want to become the decentralized NASDAQ. And that's how they've set up their technology. Their whole technology is around the decentralized NASDAQ, right? And so if you think about who the biggest custodians of this trend are going to be, effectively, this is yet another narrative where Solana lands up winning. So when it came to meme coins, I think no doubt we can say that Solana was the biggest app or the biggest winner in terms of L1s when the meme coins came, right? And then we got the AI agents. And even though the biggest platform on AI agents, which was the Virtuals platform, launched on Base, ultimately, if you look today at the AI agent launch narrative, you can see that Solana is still the biggest. And the second one is ETH. And that's, of course, ETH because of Base. And so once again, Solana basically took the lead here. And what this is showing you is that really for every narrative that actually lands up happening, Solana becomes the winner eventually. So in internet capital markets, Solana actually became the winner. Meme coins, Solana became the winner. AI agents, Solana started off second, but actually became the winner. And what we're seeing now is that Solana is actually 70% of all on-chain transactions in the market actually land up happening on Solana. And this is just another narrative which is happening on Solana. And the reason why I'm so excited about this narrative is because this narrative is the closest narrative to Solana's core. And their core was the path to decentralized NASDAQ. And decentralized NASDAQ effectively translates into decentralized capital markets anywhere in the world. And that is why this narrative makes me so excited, right? And the truth is that I think the reason why people are going to Solana is A, because they have the most distribution. Because I think Solana has the most wallet downloads. It has the most active addresses, the most users. You can see that over here when you compare it to any other blockchain. Literally, if you look at the most active addresses, which translates to the most downloaded wallets, you can kind of see that Solana is by far the biggest in terms of numbers. So the most distribution happens on Solana. Also, the chain works, but most importantly, in Solana's moved beyond the layer one. So the first battle was to win the layer one battle. Who could be the fastest? Who could be the cheapest, etc., etc. What seems to be happening is that now Solana's won that battle, and now the next thing is how many successful revenue-generating businesses can be built on the protocol. And once again, here we're seeing that Solana, if you look at application by revenue by chain, 64% of application revenue, so not gas fees on the chain, but actual revenue earned by applications on the network, 65% of all application revenue fees are going onto Solana. And the reason why that's happening is because Solana has the most distribution, has the lowest gas fees, and that's really, and it's fast enough, and that's really what users actually want. And so I think that the biggest custodians here, so just have a look at this. This is super interesting. From August 2023, more or less, Solana went to becoming to over 65%. It's actually now 65% of all revenue. They went from pretty much 0 to 65% of all app revenue. You can see it. You can see it here. I think here it's wait. You can't see it there. There you go. You can see it over here. When you look at this chart over here, you can kind of see that the green is the Solana revenue. I'm going to take you to a year, and you can kind of see how much app revenue is actually being earned by the apps on Solana. So, who are going to be the biggest custodians of all this profit? The first one is, of course, Solana. And I think that here, once again, we have another narrative, and the narrative is happening on Solana. Also, in this recovery, we're also getting meme coins recovering, and the home of meme coins is actually on Solana. And if you talk about AI agents, which is probably the only other narrative in crypto, well, Solana wins again. So the biggest custodian here, obviously, is going to be the L1. But then remember that and you can kind of see it when you look at the bubbles. If you look at the bubbles, and you look at the bubbles which are actually starting to explode, and I actually called this a few days ago, or 2 weeks ago when I built my portfolio. Look at Raydium. And the reason why Raydium is actually exploding like this, and why Raydium has got a chart that looks something like this, right? The reason why Raydium has that kind of chart, and if you go, I'm not going to go into 1 year, I think 1 year takes us too far, but if you look at the 1 month chart of Raydium and why Raydium's almost doubled in a month, is because no matter what value is being traded, whether it's meme coins, whether it's AI agents, whether it's now internet capital markets, being traded on Solana. And you need a DEX. And that's why I say that the smartest moves now in blockchain are to own the L1, the DEXs, and then the launch pads, if you like a certain idea. And in this case, the launch pad would be the Believe launch pad, which is the launch coin, and stuff like that. And then you can actually own the DEXs, because no matter what the value that is actually being created, the DEX will benefit. So when everybody thought that Raydium was dead because PumpFun actually launched their own DEX, well then Raydium launched their own version of PumpFun, but no one's going to go and trade their AI agent on PumpFun. No one's going to go and trade the internet capital markets idea on PumpFun. They're going to go and trade it on things like Raydium. And so Jupiter and Radium basically have the best exposure here. But then there's 𝗏𝗘, and the reason why 𝗏𝗘 is so good is because 𝗏𝗘 actually captures all the minor extractable value, or the maximum extractable value on the Solana chain, which is the actual value of the chain is actually all captured by 𝗏𝗘. And so if I was building a portfolio now around these narratives, I would have Solana in it, and I think Solana is still cheap enough to buy. I'd have Jupiter because Jupiter is a DEX aggregator. I would have Radium because Radium is where everybody's going to trade the value that's created. I would have 𝗏𝗘 because 𝗏𝗘 is where we capture the MEV. I would have Launchcoin because that's the latest launchpad, and that could go as high as a virtuals. And then the truth is, look, again, as I say, I haven't got into any of these or many of these. But the guys in front runners, the DJs in front runners in the different channels are constantly getting in and out of these things. I mean, they're buying them at 100 grand market cap, 200 grand market cap. They're selling them at 6. They're making 20x's overnight. I think they were like, there was a 20x, there was a 3x. There's so many of these things going all the time. So I think that is probably the ultimate. I would, like, if you want to play in the casino, take 1 or 2% of your portfolio and play in the casino, but the rest put into the infrastructure that's going to benefit. And I say again, I think this is one of the most exciting narratives in blockchain. But if you don't think so, that's cool. Ultimately, the last 3 exciting narratives have all landed up being on Solana. And the thing that has benefited the most from AI agents, meme coins, and now from internet capital markets is the layer 1, the DEXs, the MEV capturers, which is in this case 𝗏𝗘. And then, of course, you can go into the launch pads and the actual ideas. And that is effectively how I would play this new and exciting narrative that I think is one of the best narratives in the world. Again, I want to just warn you, I'm not a big fan of the actual coins and actual ideas, even though I do think there's going to be fun and high adrenaline. And I think what we'll do is we'll actually start a Sunday show like we used to do the AI agent show. We're actually going to start the Sunday shows talking about the specific Kickstarter ideas and actually just reviewing the specific Kickstarter ideas, maybe even meeting the founders and stuff like that. So that's that. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're as excited as I am about this. Josh shares, I need to do my Blofin. Oh yes, of course. If you opened an account on Blofin, here it is. So if you open an account on Blofin, we said we'd do draws until Friday of $5,000. It's very simple. All you'd have to do is open an account on Blofin, which is an amazing exchange. You got to use this link over here. Open account on Blofin. It's an amazing exchange. No KYC required, so you can open it anywhere. Deposit money into the account. A little bit of money, just so we know you're not a bot. Because there's no KYC, you guys have been taking advantage of this. And I get it. Like, you want to open 10,000 accounts, but it doesn't really work. So now we've been filtering the accounts. And we think these are the real legitimate accounts. I'm going to quickly just pick a winner here for today. Today's winner is this one over here. It's account number, UID number 19819902602716. There it is on the screen. If you are that account, email giveaways@cryptobanter.com. From the email, you open that account and make sure you've got money in that account, and you'll get $5,000 deposited into your account. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed it, someone says, why does Ran still think he needs to convince people about Sol? Always sounds desperate. I'm not convincing you about Sol. I'm just telling you what's in my portfolio and what I'm doing. Someone says, oh, I won. Amazing. I really hope you did win. Sol 120. If you can get Sol at 120, I'll take as many as you can get, sir. Otherwise, I'm buying it at these levels. Well, I have been buying it at these levels. Cool. Let's just quickly look at the market. So I see that a little bit flatter, but nothing to worry about. I wonder if the call from Good Morning Crypto from yesterday, our newsletter, I wonder if it's right in terms of when we're going to hit the new high on Bitcoin. I must say, I read that article yesterday. And I just thought he actually does make a very, very good point, and we actually could see the new all-time high in about 2 weeks. Anyway, I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Big show tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.